Thank you for staying here on Joy News. Let's still stay on election-related news. Chief Justice Georgina Theodora-Wood has assured the judiciary will do its best to ensure free and fair elections this year. Now speaking at the launch of the 3rd edition of the Manual on Election Adjudication in Ghana, Madame Theodora-Wood urged all members of the judiciary to guard their duties jealously.
Since then, there have been major decisions of the courts and the enactment of new laws that have significantly altered the.
It all started on a good note, with the Judicial Secretary Alex Champon opening the launch. Until about a few minutes into his speech, the light went off. Next was former Supreme Court Justice V.C. R.A.C. Crabb, who was forced to also use the MC's light on his phone to read his speech. He urged parties in election disputes to settle matters peacefully.
Democracy. In this regard, the judiciary has played a very important role, not only in the adjudication processes, but in things which bring confidence to the people that the ship of state is on an even keel. Once again, we are gathered here to make known to the world our commitment to democracy in ensuring that disputes arising out of the presidential election and the general election are dealt with in good faith.
John Benjamin, the UK High Commissioner, also had his share of the light out. Chief Justice Georgina Theodora-Wood assured the judiciary would do its best to ensure free and fair polls this year.
We in the judiciary recognize this duty, namely that as the final arbiters, we have a responsibility to guide this nation towards peaceful, orderly and credible elections as a constitutional imperative. A responsibility that is not to be toyed with, but one to be guarded jealously and responsibly. It is a constitutional responsibility to which, as faithful arbiters, we have pledged our unstinting loyalty, heart, soul, and mind, assured that this is the only genuine path to a further consolidation of our nascent democracy and survival of our nation. In the broader context, our determination reflects the judiciary's continuing commitment and promise to Ghanaians, as per the solemn oaths we subscribe to on our appointments, to be steadfastly a part of the solution process for the protection of the democratic principles and values. More importantly, it shows our commitment to safeguard the right to vote within the right political space, namely in free and fair elections.
Meanwhile, Attorney General Marietta Brew Appiah-Opon has also encouraged all political stakeholders to address election disputes peacefully.
The determination of these cases is evidence of how the courts have played a pivotal role in handling electoral disputes and in strengthening our democracy. This role places an enviable responsibility on the judiciary to ensure that the rule of law prevails in the entire electoral process. Given this responsibility, the judiciary has to be prepared at all times, especially during election periods, to handle any disputes that may occur as a result of the electoral process.
Let's get on to the campaign trail now. The PPP's presidential candidate, Dr. Papakwesi Indum, says he is confident the PPP is winning. He made this known at a press briefing in Dunkwa.
I believe that the PPP is winning. It is winning. This race is ours to win. And we have to work harder these 3 weeks left for the people to translate all the other things they've been saying, hearing, and so on and so forth into real votes. So imagine 3 strong political parties, December 7th, 2016. Which one will move through? If one of us doesn't move through the first round, which 2 will move on to the second round? So as some people say, either the best or with the best, that's what it's going to be for the PPP this election year. So we'll see what happens December 7th. We have a lot more work to do. We also have a lot more work to do to get our message out there.
We'll be reaching my colleagues Rafiq Salam, who is in the Upper West region, and Maxwell Kudako in the Eastern region to give us some updates on President Mahama's commissioning of the airport in the Upper West region and the MPP's presidential candidate Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's tour of the Eastern region. Before that, the Deputy Attorney General is questioning the decision of the Supreme Court to allow citizen vigilante Mr. Martin Amidu orally examine businessman Alfred Agbesi Woyome in determining how he spent the almost 52 million Ghana cedis paid to him as judgment did. Now, this comes a day after Mr. Amidu was given the all-clear to demand the details, which the Attorney General discontinued based on assurances by Mr. Woyome that he'll pay the illegal money paid to him. Now, speaking on Joy FM Super Morning Show, Dr. Dominic Ayen argued that the grounds for granting Mr. Amidu was in error. He explains why.
We filed the application to orally examine him. It was served on him personally. He gave it to his lawyers, and his lawyers wrote to us. In fact, the lawyers called first, followed up with a letter that said that their client was willing and able to pay part of the debt, and therefore they were asking us to abate proceedings as far as the oral examination is concerned. And that is why we stopped. We decided to discontinue.
The letter that the lawyers wrote to you, we've cited the date on it. It's the 27th of October.
Yes.
But your letter that you wrote to the Supreme Court asking them to withdraw your application to orally examine him is dated the 26th, the day before the letter from the lawyers was written.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
I can explain. I told you that we had prior discussions with them before the letter came.
You said you had subsequent discussions. You just said it. I paid close attention.
We had prior discussions. They had called us with respect to the matter. And then subsequently, we held a meeting with them in our office.
Okay. So why did their letter not refer to your discussions?
That is a matter of style. You can ask their lawyers to answer that question. It did not take place.
So you came to an agreement with them orally, but when they wrote to you, they didn't reference this agreement. And you're saying it's a matter of style?
It's a question of.
And in their letter, they make no reference. In fact, they do make reference to their most recent interaction with you, and it's in February.
No, you mean, are you referring to what we filed in the Supreme Court?
I'm referring to what they wrote to you when they declared their client's ability to pay.
I told you that the lawyers called us. Okay, we definitely interacted prior to the 27th. And take that from me. I don't lie. I'm a person of integrity. If you don't know me, I'm not going to lie on Joy FM. If that is the truth, I will accept it and apologize.
In a related development, President Mahama has reacted to claims by Mr. Amidu that government backed out of the decision to examine Mr. Woyome for political reasons. Speaking on the evening encounter organized by the state broadcaster GBC, President Mahama insisted that the Attorney General was making genuine efforts to retrieve the money.
This is one case that has taken the Attorney General's time, and she has pursued this case relentlessly. Recently, she put in an application to do an oral examination of Woyome. But at the same time, discussions had been ongoing in respect of settlement. And so before that happened, a terms of settlement was granted. And so she went to the Supreme Court and discontinued the oral examination so that she could look at the terms of settlement and see if it was acceptable, or meet with his lawyers and agree on what the terms were, with the option to come back in the event that she was not satisfied with the terms. I mean, that is a practice in law. And then somebody says, hey, it's the president who has it to discontinue. I mean, we have people who are just willing to publish any allegations in the papers against the person of the president, you know, and there are all kinds of false claims, allegations and things, you know. Sometimes you read and you get disheartened, but you were elected to do a job. And so I take heart, and I mean, despite all these, you know, claims and allegations and falsehoods, most of them downright falsehoods for purposes of political propaganda, you know, and the social media has become a very fertile ground.
Now, the man at the center of this story, businessman Alfred Woyome, has launched a fresh salvo against the man who will examine him in court next week, Martin Amidu. Addressing a news briefing, Mr. Woyome claims Martin Amidu is also part of the team that made payment of the 52 million cedis to him.
If the justices of the Supreme Court had read my deposition in full and in total, it would have been clear that I had never sued on a 2006 contract which Waterville already had settlement with government on, but rather on 2005 bidding process. And if you go to the courts who have given me opportunity to tender evidence through the High Court and to the Court of Appeal, you can see that they've all affirmed that. They've all affirmed that. I don't blame the Supreme Court, but I felt that the Supreme Court, I will talk about that one. So Martin Amidu is the same person that he has gone to court against. He said the first respondent is included because he was part of the same, the Attorney General, who superintended some part of the payment. And therefore, unconstitutional conduct applies to him. I said I'm constrained, so I will leave that aspect there. Why am I saying the Supreme Court is persecuting me? I want to start by this very statement here. I abide with the review decision of the Supreme Court.
Away from that judgment saga, in his peace message to Ghanaians, the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church of Ghana, Right Reverend Titus Awotwe-Pratt, is asking every stakeholder in this year's elections to work for peace because it is not automatic.
Well, peace is not automatic. You work for peace and you maintain peace. There are other ingredients that go into making peace stable. The first is justice. People in the community should recognize each other as equal partners in the community. And when that happens, you will respect the differences that we see among persons who live together. Secondly, you will regard those differences as enough as catalyst to make you a better person, because you weigh others with yours, and you adopt or adapt to others, and that makes you a richer person. You're able to move around and associate people. And so peace is one thing that is not automatic, but peace is worked for and maintained with justice, equanimity, understanding, regard for authority, recognition of different persons in the community. When these come together, we're able to live in peace. The EC is supposed to be independent electoral commission, and so that is what they are supposed to do. They are being battered here and there by different opinions and persons, but if they remain focused on what the law expects of them, they will be able to function well for all of us. Secondly, all stakeholders, different political parties with different agendas and whatever they call themselves, as well as security agents that are in the country, are all not to be partial in such a way that others may be disadvantaged. The police services, the military, whatever, all the security agencies are to work for the peace of the entire nation. They should not be seen to be leaning towards A against B or D against E. These will create problems for us. So all bodies in the country, security agents, political parties, civil society, all should know the agenda they are following and to follow the agenda to the letter in such a way that what we expect as a result of the impending elections will be achieved. What is it? That a party or a government will come into power to manage the affairs of the nation, to which all of us will accept. And so every person or every group in this country should work towards making this election peaceful and afterwards also a stable country for ourselves. I would require all Christians in this country to be above reproach. Christians are to exercise their franchise by going to vote. Vote and return home. Don't be part of any group of persons who aim at causing chaos or disturbances. No. I speak also for all religious bodies, Christian, Muslim, whatever. Let us show the world that indeed we are worshiping a God who is peaceful and loving, a God who is considerate, and He's made the world so different in such a way that when all these events come together, we see the richness which is in God. So let us all together pray for a peaceful period before the elections, during the elections, and a stable country for ourselves after the elections.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, the President, John Dramani Mahama, is in the Upper West region to commission a new airport, and the MPP's presidential candidate, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is in the Eastern region as part of the final phase of his campaign tour ahead of the elections. We'll bring you details in our program, The Election Brief, at 2:30. Meanwhile, in business, the Ghana Revenue Authority says they will meet their end-of-year target despite challenges with mobilization for half of the year. There's more in business after this.